Something that I appreciate about watches of the past was the clean and simplistic nature of the overall design. We wanted to create something that you don't have to think twice about. A staple, an icon, something you can keep going back to. It's fundamental, dependable, classic, purposeful. In season 1, we established our first icon. Now, we're working on creating our next icon. Whether it was a sport watch, dive watch, or a dress watch. The common theme was that the overall design was usually quite utilitarian. Since we are working on our next dive watch, let's break that down. It's remarkable to realize just how many dive watches are out there. Yet watch brands keep pumping them out because, well, they're one of the most fun types of watches to develop due to its inherent qualities of being rich with features and nice specs. Since the Hydrotimer was going to be housed in our Stratotimer case, the soul of this watch was going to really come down to the dial and bezel design. The mission for this project wasn't to create another dive watch that was cool for just this year or next, only to end up creating another one down the road. This time, it was about developing an icon, a watch that had a strong visual identity that was an instant classic. In order to do that, I had to look back in history for the icons of the past. When I look at a watch like the Omega Seamaster 300, it's such a great example of simplicity, symmetry, and necessity. Just the bezel design alone for nearly 10 years was not about how much more or less information it needed. It was all about tweaking and refining the original design by playing with the different line weights, spacing, and fonts. Just the number 1 alone went through various different styles of serifs, and the 4 from pointy to flat top, back to pointy, but slightly rounded on the corners. This may seem like details that ultimately don't matter, and it probably doesn't. But being a designer myself, I can appreciate how much thought went into even the smallest visual change, as most likely it made a much larger impact on the overall design and the expression of the designer. Every artist has a signature element to their individual selves, and watches are ultimately pieces of art. In my opinion, the dial is 90% of the watch. It sets the tone for the rest of it. It's the first thing that's staring at you square in the face, and that first impression that it gives is going to make or break the watch for you. The appreciation that I have for the dials on dive watches of the past is how true the geometric shapes were. Circles were circles, rectangles, trapezoids, and triangles were done as is, and there were no fancy cuts or unnecessary noise to the true form of the shapes. Omega stuck to one shape on the 300, then went on to triangles. The Submariner is famous for the use of circles, rectangles, and triangles. The Hydrotimer is an attempt to combine everything that I've talked about. Symmetry, simplicity, simple geometric shapes with a visual language that's sound and can last for a long, long time. All right, here we go. What I'm going to do is actually take the triangle, which is an equilateral triangle, and the idea is that the top side of that triangle actually it lines up with the outer circumference of the edge of the this circular indices. However, the top of the triangle is straight, but in order to have fluidity of the overall design and layout, what I want to do is actually cut the top of the triangle to have a curvature to the top side of it, so that it actually, if you were to continue this circle, it would actually fall in line with the next indices, which would be your 11 o'clock position, so it would fall in line. That way, when when you actually see it overall, it visually is just very nice and sound and even. It's one of those details that you don't know that it's there, but for some reason, it works. When you zoom out, I think to the naked eye, you're not gonna be able to tell, but it's one of those fun stories, one of those fun details we can include and talk about. And that's what it's all about. That's where I find most of my enjoyment in design. It's those things that you can't see. Okay, I think this is ready to be shown. Without further ado,
should we show those?
the watermelon? Sure.